Hey Novo ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. So, was there an ancient race of giants on this planet? Let's find out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Here's one that always gets me. Stories of giants.
I want that to be real so bad. I mean, I want all
That
this
the
to be real.
Smithsonian's been hiding the information. Those are the big conspiracies.
Could be.
Down in their basement, they've got like a
The
10-foot
face.
tall human being.
I
A
mean,
race
there
of
was-
giants that existed, roamed the earth.
Yeah.
David and Goliath's a real story.
It just seems like they
Well, the idea of David and Goliath being a real story could still be real even if the guy is not 20 feet tall, right? Because you do have giants in the sense of gigantism as a condition. It's a medical condition, it exists. But of course, I understand what he means.
wouldn't be gone. It just seems like they wouldn't be gone. They wouldn't be the ones that would have been killed off.
Unless, in the cataclysm, like the Younger Dryas impact theory, there wasn't enough food.
Oh,
and they
right,
died
right.
off, Because if you're that big, you need to eat a lot.
Define that big.
So you think they were around like way long ago?
Way
and
long
died
ago.
off way long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think like recently. But I think like
Yeah.
it is, there's so many stories and so many cultures have these stories, even in the Bible, of a race of giants.
The Bible one is a possible interpretation. So what he's talking about, of course, is Nephilim. So as you see, the moment you write Nephilim on Google, you get the Nephilim are mysterious giant figures from the Bible Old Testament described as offsprings of the sons of God, often interpreted as angels and human women. Known as heroes of old, men of renown before the great flood, and reappearing later as formidable giants like the Anakim in Canaan. This is one of the possible interpretation of the Hebrew words, Nephilim, Nephilah. If we jump into Hebrew dictionary and lexical summary, we will notice one thing. The while giant is one possible interpretation, the other one is, if you connect it to its origin root, nafal, then it would mean to fall. So, Nephilim could also be translated as the fallen ones. That is personally my favorite translation. I prefer to translate it as the fallen ones rather than the giants. But of course, once you say fallen, then fallen from what? Of course, if these are half angels, half humans, then we could say fallen from the heavens. But if we want to be an indication of where the heavens could be specifically located, and this is just that I'm not saying that that's what I believe. I'm just saying it's an interesting linguistic coincidence, if you will. Then what's interesting is that in Aramaic, of course, a language that is strongly connected to Hebrew, it is one of the ways to translate or mean the constellation of Orion. So I just thought I would share that because it's fascinating. Let's continue.
Like it seems like it couldn't just be big people.
Right.
It seems like what they're
mean-
talking about is something crazy.
I guess it could be if you're
It
just
could be.
because if you're just mythologizing. There's
Yeah.
no way that's a word, but if you're
Yeah, it
just
is.
turning something that is real, this is the same with like a dragon. People obviously just get inspired by things that are around them. They start to morph into things. I mean, there was no fire-breathing animal
Right.
flying around.
Probably crocodiles and shit like that.
Yeah,
that
crocodiles,
people
and
saw.
Crocodiles. Well, how about maybe they found a dinosaur bone?
then there are like cobras that spit venom, which obviously
Mm-hmm.
gets in your eyes. Probably going to burn like a son of a. So like, there's like the
Right.
fire myth. I mean.
And people exaggerate.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like, people will take somebody who is a big son of a bitch, and they go, "Oh, well, let's exaggerate and
For
say
sure.
that the guy he fought was 9 feet tall."
Right.
instead of-
The exaggeration theory, when it comes to there might be some truth into ancient myths, I don't have a problem with that. In fact, even biblical flood, maybe there was a cataclysmic event. If you think about it, that's what I believe, in fact, that even the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah could have been some kind of cataclysmic event. Now, as a person of faith, I do believe that God has to do with that, but even if you remove faith from that, just because it's in a scriptural book, it doesn't mean it's all made up. No, there could be some connection to something that did happen and could be explained in natural sense. Comets. A comet might have fallen from the sky and there you go, destroyed the city of Sodom, just to say. And due to the fact that it talks about it as a rain, then it could be that the comet, as it entered the atmosphere, it split into multiple pieces and then That's how it was perceived as. It's just a possibility. I'm not saying it's automatically that way, but I'm saying rather than immediately considering any form of religion or mythology, oh, the stories are probably just made up. Even from a secular standpoint, we should consider the possibility that instead they have a connection to something real. Now, the example that he gave, well, what if it's the cobra? Yeah, it's a little far-fetched. I mean, the only way that could be proven, because now it's complete speculation, so the only way that could be proven would be if someone did mention that maybe in the earliest Akkadian examples, dragons spit venom instead. Then maybe, or maybe there was some kind of connection. The cobras become dragons through a ritual. Then there could be a little more connection. What he did now was just, I just put two things together because they make logical sense in my mind. That doesn't make it neither plausible nor probable.
6'5".
Exactly.
Which he probably was. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, when you talk about races of these giants, you could also be talking about like people from Iceland.
Yeah.
Right?
Who
Like,
were naturally
enormous
big as
Viking
hell.
dudes.
Yeah.
Who were always win those strongman competitions. You know, those guys there's giants up there. Like 400, like the mountain from Game of Thrones. Like that kind of person.
Yeah.
So you think about that. Like,
It's actually a very good example, the one about the mountain. Can you imagine? Definitely. In fact, gigantism and dwarfism were more common in the past than they are today, because today they get treated clinically. So they get diagnosed early on in the life of a child, and then these people get treated. But they couldn't do that back in the day. So there would have been, whether it be classical antiquity, Bronze Age, even the Middle Ages, there would have been more dwarves or shorter people and more giants, like actually, medically. So it makes sense that these then enter the legends, because imagine someone who looks like The Rock, but you meet him on the battlefield. Maybe he took out 10 people and the legend turns into he took out 100 people.
that's that size human.
Right.
There could have been a bunch of those around, and maybe that's what they were talking about, giants. Or there could have been like a specific race of humans. Like they keep finding these additional types of humans. Like they found Denisovans fairly recently, and then that other one that we brought up the other day, the big-headed people. That's fairly recently. They've
Denisovans are fascinating. Have you seen some of the jewelry that they can make?
discovered that this is a completely different branch. That there may, I mean, but here's the thing: if they did find those, would they tell us? Like, if archaeologists, like, who would put the cap on that? If they found like a 10-foot human under like a just gigantic dead human with a huge sword underground, like, would they just say we're wrong, giants existed, or would they go, people can't handle this?
That's a tough, because that's the answer to, or that's the question for so many things. It's
They
like,
might say people can't handle it. It's not outside the realm of possibility.
I would agree with him, but do keep in mind that a lot of people would have to be in on it. That's the only problem. Because, yes, someone, I agree, statistically, it could happen that someone finds it and they think, no, I don't want people to know this. It could happen. You can't say, no, it's impossible, because all professionals would absolutely think of science and no. Because there were professionals under the freaking Nazis, and it's not like that they did things scientifically in a way that you would approve of. So maybe a discovery like this, first you would have to talk to your person, the head of the department, and the head of the department needs to ask someone important in the government, and maybe the government says, you're not allowed to talk about this. Problem is, though, the more people you involve, like imagine if it's an international project, and now it's a problem because one country might say yes, one country might say no. As I say, it depends, because the more people you involve, the less likely it becomes that such a cover-up is going to happen, or it's likely to happen, because too many people would have to agree. Like imagine like Russian, Chinese, Americans having to agree on something. Subscribe.
I would say, yeah, they'd probably say,
Isn't that infuriating?
yeah.
Can you imagine if it was you? Now imagine you're out in West Texas, wherever you are, hanging out with your friends, and somebody notices something in the ground, and you start digging, and you pull out a thigh bone that's this big, and you plop it down, and you go, what the is that?
Probably you would think it's a dinosaur, but then again, of course, if it looks like human, if it's anthropomorphic, That would be a massive discovery. Let me tell you that much. I would love it.
And then you got a buddy who works at the university nearby, and he starts digging. He's like, "Hey, dude, this is a human foot." And he pulls out a human foot that's size 38. And you're like, "What is going on, man?" And so then you bring in some experts, and like, "Holy shit, dude, this is a giant."
38 would actually be smaller than my foot in European measurement.
And then they do DNA tests. They find out it's a real actual creature.
Yeah. I'm telling everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're going to kill you. They're going to kill you. The scientists will kill you. They're going to run you off
that's
the
true.
road.
The scientists look at
Longest.
At that point, if we really want this to make sense, I don't think it would be the scientist who will pull the trigger. It would be the government. If you really want to, for this to actually sound real.
Or well, I guess it would be the tallest
The people have ever found?
that they've ever
Let's
found.
see.
It was found in China. It's supposedly about 4,400 years old. Would
Makes
have been
sense.
about 16, 18 years old. The weird thing here is though that it says there was 3 drill holes found in the skull, and they don't
Whoa.
know why.
Wow,
Whoa, drill holes.
that's weird.
How big was it?
6'4".
Oh.
Oh, fuck me.
Well, back then, that was probably huge.
Well, you said they found it in China?
Yeah.
That's a giant.
And they're calling it, they call
Right.
it
Well, it
giant.
might be Mongolian, you know?
Well,
I
just
also looked
compared
up-
to the Chinese that are found,
Right.
they're probably like, holy shit, this
Goliath is anywhere from modern day, maybe they say up to 6'6", but like taking the word for word from the Bible, it'd have been about 9'9".
Yeah, that's what I always
Right,
thought. That's
right,
what I always
right,
I don't know
right.
how
remember
to
as
see
a
a weight,
kid.
weight size.
Right. Well, if you're back then, nobody had any food, and the average man was probably like 5'4". So if you encounter some dude who's 6'6", some big jack guy, that is a giant.
That's
The average man wasn't 4'4", but yeah, in China, of course, the average height would have been definitely shorter, significantly shorter than in Europe. But believe it or not, the difference in height, it's actually more pronounced at a regional level than it is at a time level. So there isn't that huge of an average difference between people in the Middle Ages and people today in average height. There is, and mostly due to nutrition. But then again, if you look at like aristocrats and noblemen, they tended to be taller than the average peasants and farmers due to nutrition. But in general, the average is not that, like people sometimes overestimate this. In fact, when we went into industrialization and everyone cramped the cities and diseases started to spread, then the average height went down a little bit, and then it went back up because of modern medicine. So that's an interesting thing to consider. But still, I would say there is more of a difference between a modern Scandinavian and a modern Chinese than there is between a modern Scandinavian and an ancient Scandinavian. Just to put that out there.
giant.
And then also, like, you got to think human beings, if they exist today and they're 6'6", they had the potential to be that big back then. They just didn't get the food.
Yeah.
But if you are in some very nutrient-rich environment,
Wow.
I mean,
Both those guys played pro basketball.
yeah.
That's nuts.
Muggsy, is it Muggsy Bogues?
Muggsy
on the
Bogues,
list?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
But there's smaller people that exist that can function and do stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But what's crazy is that the potential for that guy, the Yao guy, who's, how tall is he? Right, that exists in the human genome, right? That's not like we engineered them like we did dogs.
right.
Like that exists.
Yeah.
So maybe back then, if you had a ton of food and you didn't have to worry about war, like, and people
Yeah.
just kept breeding and growing and getting nutrient rich, because the thing about people in the past was they didn't have any food, man.
Yeah.
Like the average size of a guy who fought in the Civil War was, I think, 125 pounds or something crazy like that.
5'4" and 120, I think, is
Nuts.
the thing. Yeah.
And it's also the type of food and the quality of the diet and how much meat they eat. There are a few components that influence average height, because you have a genetic average height that you can reach as a potential, but then that could be influenced by how you eat. Yeah, so he's correct about that. The thing though is, as this guy, I don't know his name, he was talking about, yeah, if there are people who are very short that can function, then there must be people who are really tall and they can function. The kind of medical problems that you would have to face as a very tall person are, in fact, quite significant. For instance, they tend to have a lot of circulatory problems, and oftentimes they die relatively young. They have trouble walking at a certain, so their knees get bad. So, of course, dwarfism is a big problem too. But I believe between the two, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have a higher chance of reaching like a old age if you have dwarfism than if you have gigantism or gigantism. I don't know how to pronounce it.
way long ago.
Way
He
long
died
ago.
off way long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think like recently, but I think like
Yeah.
it is. There's so many stories, and so many cultures have these stories, even
Yeah.
in the Bible, of a race of giants.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it couldn't just be big types of humans. Can you imagine if it was you? Now imagine you're big, and he's like, "Hey."
Yeah. I'm
1 second.
But
So if you encounter some dude who's 6'6",
stuff.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is that the potential for that guy, the Yao guy, who's how tall is he?
7'7", I think.
Right,
yeah,
that exists
yeah.
in the human genome, right? That's not like we engineered them like we did dogs.
Right.
Like that exists.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe back then, if you had a ton of food and you didn't have to worry about war, like, and people
Yeah.
just kept breeding and growing and getting nutrient rich, because the thing about people in the past is they didn't have any food, man.
Yeah.
Like the average size of a guy who fought in the Civil War was, I think, 125 pounds or something crazy like that.
5'4" and
They was-
120,
yeah.
I think, is
Nuts.
the thing. Yeah.
Starving to death.
It's like a
Starving to death,
15
shooting people with
It's like a
muskets.
14-year-old girl. I mean, that's
Nuts.
like, yeah.
Right? And all they needed
Yeah.
was food. You know, you give them
Yeah.
protein, and then they grow normal sized, which is
Yeah.
really wild.
Yeah. Because there's tons of people that are well over 7 feet. It's
Yeah.
not like it's, I mean, it is an anomaly compared to
Speaking of, there's one guy in the Civil War 7'6". He would have
7'6".
stood out
Whoa.
real big, but everybody else was 5'8", average.
He was
5'8".
7'6". And
Man, they could shoot him in the head though from a very long distance. I mean, he would definitely stand out in a formation. I wonder if they used him for like cannons or something like that.
in the
Yeah.
Civil War, holy.
Maybe on horseback, because height usually in a military sense, the taller people were placed in the Roman cavalry. For instance, there was in fact an average minimum height requirement for the cavalry, which was definitely was higher than that for heavy infantry citizen. And so, if he was that tall, maybe they put him on a horse.
Oh, that's not a picture of him, I guess. Yeah,
Right.
never
But
mind, never
the
mind.
thing
But yeah.
about the stories in the Bible, though, it's like these are like mystical giants, the Nephilim, you know?
Yeah.
Isn't
Look at
he
this
the
guy.
tallest man?
Ohio.
So he's, there you go.
Bro, you do not want
Thomas
to box
Jones,
that guy.
7'6".
Nope.
7'6".
Imagine the
That's
range.
a
Well,
big
she
dude.
must be pretty tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
She probably needed to do that big, take care of her.
yeah,
what I'm
probably.
saying?
Yeah, she can be in this
The big lady.
5'8" guys.
Yeah, she can't be
He's like, what are y'all doing? Yeah.
She'll hold me down. I'll have to fight that lady to the death. she,
No chance. Yeah.
she needs a big man. She's
Yeah.
a big giant man to correctly.
Yes.
That was interesting. Anyways, let me know what you think. Are you interested in maybe a deep dive on the etymology, possibly cross-cultural significance of both Nephilim and in general the concept of giants? Maybe in the Fertile Crescent we could have a look, and in general the Middle East, since we were mentioning the Bible, and we could compare it with Akkadian and Sumerian myths and ideas and scripts that talk about this. We could do that. And then, I mean, there are plenty of other cultures that we could look at, but maybe we could start from there. Let me know if you're interested in that kind of topic in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you appreciate my content so far and wish to help ensure my ability to continue to tell it how it is, regardless of any possible backlash, please support this channel on Patreon. Any support helps me and my team of academics keep the channel strong and gives us the means to fight back against the political rewriting of history. Stand with us, form the wall, defend the truth.